Good afternoon, welcome back to the channel. Right, today's job we're working on the Spaceframe race car. But first, before I show you what I'm going to do on that, I'll give you a very quick update on the trailer. Right, what I've done is I've spent many hours reconditioning all the suspension units on the trailer. I took them off, took them home, blasted them, cleaned them, painted them, reconned the hubs with new bearings, made sure it was all tip-top condition, put them back on, and the hubs still had loads of movement. Basically, obviously you couldn't test it until you got a wheel on and you could wobble it to see what play there was, and there was still just as much play with new bearings in the hubs as there was before I took them off, before I started working on them. So that was a total waste of time. So what I've had to do is I bought a complete set of Avon Ride, I think they were called, hubs and suspension, the whole lot, the whole suspension arms and the hubs all in two kits. One kit is the braked set and the other kit is the unbraked set. So they are on now. You can see them, you can just about see the end of the galvanised section. So one thing to note is there seems to be a little bit of difference on the offset, even though they're from the same manufacturer, so you would think they would all line up, braked and unbraked, but they're not. The braked one is slightly wider, so, and it does mean of course I've got to entirely redo the entire brake system of the trailer as well, with all the rods and equalising bars, and because it's all totally different, so that's fun. Right, onto the car. What I've been doing is dismantling it, as you can see, and working out what's what. What I have realised is that a lot of the ECU parameters aren't used, there's stuff not plugged in. Even Polestar recommend that the ECU drives like your fuel pump and your fan via relays. Well, there's no relays apart from that one, which is your starter relay, and those two fuses there are the only two fuses in the whole car. Nothing else is fused. Well, it's a bit dark, but yeah, as I said, nothing else is fused. So what I want to do is I'm going to add in the extra outputs that are missing on the ECU. I've got fuel pump relay control, I've got fan relay control, I've also got a lambda sensor in, which ties in with what I'm doing today. So I've got an input for that going into the ECU, or I will have, and then I've also put extra wires in for the traction control and launch functions of the ECU. Doesn't mean I'm going to use them, but I've put the wires in now while it's apart. It's easy to deal with later. They're just switches really. And then on the dash panel, or the bulkhead panel, the idea is to have some sort of fuse. The original idea was to have a fuse panel here, and what I've changed that for is a combined power distribution and fuse panel. So it has a whole lot of fuses in here, and it has incoming mains at the top, and it has incoming mains at the bottom and negative at the top. And that way I'll be able to neaten it all up. What I was thinking was I'll run me relays that I need across the top here. So the first job today is I'm going to cover that panel with masking tape so I can draw on it and get all my dimensions mapped out and make sure everything's sitting square to each other, if you know what I mean, so it doesn't look all on the piss. And I'm also going to work on the hole for where the exhaust goes through the bulkhead, which is this one. What I want to do is I want to close it in a bit more. Normally there is, you can sort of see it defined by this outline here, there is this section that covers the exhaust, but what I want to do is enclose it more so that there's less fumes and stuff coming through into the cabin. and just the neatening up, and I'll make that removable so that when I want to take the exhaust on and off, I can just pop that off and then maneuver the exhaust, because obviously the odd shaped hole in the bulkhead provides space for the exhaust to be finangled out, because it's quite a procedure. I've started off by making a template. This is the template CAD. I made that in CAD. It sort of is going to sit sort of like that in there, sort of thing. What I'll do first, though, as I said, is I'll take this off and then I'll cover this all in tape, mark the existing hole, tidy up some of these jagged edges, and then make sure my panel that I put in when I get it transferred to alloy is sitting on the square. I think what I'll end up doing is I'll make the panel square in alloy first, mount it to the bulkhead so that it's all sitting pretty and all the holes all line up, then see about splitting it and cutting the holes in it to make space for the exhaust. I think that's the way I'm going to do it, but we'll see shortly how I come on. Right, that'll do for now. We're covering that. I'll be able to start drawing some lines and stuff on that and get it all squared up next. Okay, so I've got it all taped up and marked out where my plate's going to go. Hopefully you can sort of see this, it's a bit dark in here, but this is the outline along here, up there, and that is 130mm square plate that I'm going to make. And then what I'll do is I'll drill the holes in the plate, get them nicely spaced so that they can be drilled through from the plate through the bulkhead to get the holes all to line up before I split it. I'll probably do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 holes, I think. If I was a bit deeper down here I could have had a couple, but I'm not really that fussed because it's quite tight to this panel anyway, so I don't need a massive bit of overlap. Yeah, that's what I'll do. See what it looks like. One thing to point out is that I'm working on the car on the trailer and I'm constantly fighting roll cage to be getting at my working space. So yeah, it's not the most fun working situation, but it is what it is. It is Boxing Day as well, so I should say happy holidays. Right, I've got my bit of metal, bit of alloy marked out. This is my 130mm square, and these are the points where I'm going to put fasteners in. I'm going to use M4 riv nuts in the bulkhead and these little leftovers from work to fasten them in. So next job it'll be to drill these, then I'll cut it, and I'll probably have to cut it that way before I mark them through, otherwise it'll not fit correctly. If I mark it through as a solid plate then cut it, there'll be a gap. Because angle grinder blades aren't invisible, they are about 1mm. And of course, because it's Christmas as well, I do get a lot of chocolate, so keeping well fed today. Righty-ho, so I got my bit of metal cut out of the big sheet. I got the holes drilled, which is what you saw me starting to do before the battery went flat on the GoPro. These are all drilled out to 4mm. As I said, blade's cut out, it's cut in half, and then it's taped back together, ready to put in the car, and then I'll tape it in place on the bulkhead, and then spot through for each of these holes for the rib nuts. But first, it's brew time. God damn it up with trying to work over a roll cage. I can't see flat onto what I'm doing, so I'm just leaning in trying to get it. I think I messed up one of the top ones. It's drilled through into thin air and not into the metalwork behind, so I moved it too far down. But not to worry, I've got 3 more to drill. So I've got to move the GoPro out of the way for that. And then I'll do the pop rivets next after that. Or no, not pop rivets, the riv nuts. The holes for the riv nuts, they have to be maybe like 6mm or something like that. I'll put all the riv nuts in, and then I'll be able to put the panel back in to test it all lines up. Right, so that's all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's all 10 holes drilled and riv nuts put in. So next job will be to get the alloy plate, this fella, and we'll mount it in place just to make sure all the holes line up. But I'm fairly confident they'll be near enough. Okay then, that's the finished, well not finished, the half or 3/4 finished plate. Obviously I've got a big hole to cut in it yet, but that's roughly what it's going to look like. One thing I haven't allowed for that I should have done is that these bottom two here could be very awkward to get at with the exhaust pipe in place. So we'll have to see if they end up going back in. They could be underneath the exhaust where you can't get at it. What I will do is, when it's all finished, the plate will go on in place, then it'll get the silver foil around the outside to help it seal, because obviously there's a slight gap because the riv nuts sit proud of this bulkhead surface, so creates a gap. You can probably just see that this top edge here, there's a bit of a shadow. That's because there's a gap, and also that one isn't quite tight. So what I'll do is I'll make sure it's sealed fully by putting the silver foil tape around it before I put the final bolt back in it, and then it'll be as sealed as, or well as anything else is on this bulkhead anyway. And then obviously the next job is all this lot in here needs to be marked up for where the power distribution panel is going, which will be in the middle, and then the relays across the top, and then I'll probably draw out my wiring route as well so I can get it all nice and neat on this plate. But that's going to make it do for this afternoon. Got a lot of tidying up to do next, and then head home for Boxing Day meal, which, if it's half as good as Christmas Day meal, I don't want to be late for that. Right, so that's it, quick one. Well, I say a quick one, I don't know until I've got it edited, but marginally quick. Not much progress, but work is ongoing. So that's it for now. See you on the next one. Ta-da.